Good evening, everybody. It is 7 o'clock on Monday, February 17th, and we will call this regular City Commission of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Bospis Rath.
Here.
Commissioner Habusta.
Here.
Commissioner Marble.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
All present and accounted for. So if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 4 is mayor comments and general announcements. We are now halfway through February, which is probably a good thing. Last weekend was the Katie Robinson Memorial Tournament, ice hockey tournament for girls. In Sault Ste. Marie, it was the 4th annual. There were 15 women's teams in Sault Ste. Marie, and most of them were from out of town. And thank you to all the rinks in town. They had games at the Big Bear, the Puller, and the North Center, and took up most of the ice time in town. A big thank you to the Lions Club and the Little Gift Shop for donating money for the dinner, which was for all of the participants. And it was a really great time, and thank you to the staff at the Puller. Sault Ste. Marie did a great job. The ice was perfect, and everybody had a great time, and certainly to the rink up at the North Center. Commissioner Habusta and his day job arranged for all that, and they had a fantastic time. So good opportunity to showcase Lake Superior State University and also our city for 15 female hockey teams. In the consent agenda, we'll be accepting the resignation of Kelly Bunker from the EDC. Kelly has chosen to go the retirement path, and he has been a mainstay on the EDC for, we were trying to figure it out today, probably his 25th year. And that's a long time and a long commitment for one entity. And I think Kelly has owned Bunker Manufacturing for a long time. His family had Bunker Manufacturing, and if I'm not mistaken, his family will still have Bunker Manufacturing. So we wish Kelly and his wife Marla a happy retirement, and we thank them for their participation in everything City of Sault Ste. Marie. So we will move on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments on any of our scheduled agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move into item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Robin Schroyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of February 3rd, 2025. Item 2, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and Tax Increment Finance Authority 3 meeting minutes of January 14th. Item 3 is the resignation of Kelly Bunker from the Economic Development Corporation, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and Tax Increment Finance Authority 3, effective March 1, 2025. Item 4 is consideration of a resolution to certify and add 301.55 feet of Salmon Runway, Phase 2, and 412 feet of Ord Street. Item 5 is consideration of an application for waiver of underfunded status for the DDA MERS Plan 2024 fiscal year end. Item 6 is consideration of a resolution for the Michigan Lottery recognizing Superior Health Support Systems as a nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license. And item 7 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Manager. Would any commissioner like any of these items further explained or removed from the agenda for individual consideration? Commissioner Bauer.
So moved, we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Support.
We have motion and support to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving on into item E, which is special orders of business. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is the second reading and final consideration of the proposed ordinance, Chapter 22, Article 5, regarding stormwater management. In the agenda item is an updated ordinance based on the feedback we received from the commission at the prior meeting. At this time, we would do a public hearing on the second reading, or a public comment period on the second reading, and then take it up for final consideration and vote by the commission.
Thank you, City Manager. So we will open up a public comment period on the second reading of an ordinance to create, excuse me, Chapter 22, Article 5, Stormwater Management, City of Sault Ste. Marie Code. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Seeing none, we will close the public comment period and go to the City Commission. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I have one question.
Sure, Commissioner
And
Bauer.
this is for City Manager Chapman. And you may or may not know the answer. I was just wondering, as I was reading through this, do most people who have culverts realize that those are, in fact, their responsibility?
I mean, I don't know if I can say most do or do not.
Or are people gonna really be surprised?
I don't know, because I can't speak factually on that kind of question. I think there are people that know, and I think there are people that don't know. I don't have a way of gauging the reaction with that. I just don't. I know there are some
I
people
didn't think
that,
you had a statistic or
Yeah.
anything like that.
and I don't want to mislead you by just giving a gut reaction to that. I don't have a good way of gauging that. I mean, there could be some people that are surprised. There are some people that know it's their responsibility, for one reason or another, don't or can't or won't take care of their culverts. I think there are some people that have good functioning culverts and drainage systems that would appreciate something like this being put in place in order to nudge some of their neighbors that may not take care of their culvert or their drains or ditches. But, I can't answer your question directly.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that one of the ways that you handle currently culverts that are in poor condition or no longer functioning is by issuing citations. How many citations have we issued as a community over the past year, 2 years? Do you have an idea, kind of give me a pattern of how that's looked?
Unless Dave or Kelly kind of shake their heads otherwise, we haven't really cited any ordinances because there's nothing. The reason why we're bringing this ordinance to the commission for potential adoption is because we don't have a strong regulation scheme in place to be able to feel comfortable citing people. We have the property maintenance code, which we've adopted by reference, that, the only thing that really kind of falls close to this would just be stagnated water. You can't have stagnated water on your property, period. So that could be a pool. The extreme, to be ridiculous, could be a puddle, but that's the closest thing we have right now. So push comes to shove, could we cite somebody for standing water in a drain? Yeah, we could, but we haven't. We've tried nudging people along the best we could, but we feel like we need a little bit more support in terms of a regulation ordinance.
Anybody else? Commissioner Rubenstein.
First off, I appreciate the language getting added in there. At least I think it was added in about if they're not conforming but performing well. But how many of them actually conform? Because I'm just thinking out in Lakeshore and some of the specifications, and even the newer ones that have been put in the last few years don't necessarily fit in this bucket.
Part of that, I don't think we have a good number right now. I mean, part of that work is gonna be with the Army Corps of Engineers doing the Stormwater Asset Management Plan. So we don't have a good answer for you on that. One thing to consider with drains and culverts, to a certain extent, it's a system, and it's all gotta flow this way. So if you have one person that has a hump there, even if their culvert is in good shape, there's probably still some work that we're gonna have to require those people to do to kind of clean them out so that everything goes downhill with the gravity. But to tell you how many we specifically have, I don't know. Hopefully that we'll have that answer within 8 months, a year, within a year, after the Army Corps has a chance to go out. But, part of that, again, part of this ordinance, we don't have a good scheme for regulations behind us, and we just don't have a lot of good data either. Because a lot of these things, to the point that was brought up earlier, these are privately owned facilities throughout the city. They're not part of our asset management inventory unless it is a public one, so we just don't have that kind of information. But to resolve the problem, you start working on some of the data, sort of the backbones of these things, and we hope we'll be able to kind of come to a resolution to really move the needle on some of this stuff. I mean, we recognize it is a problem in certain areas throughout the city, and again, just trying to put us on a better footing moving forward is kind of the reason why we're proposing the ordinances in addition to our work with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Anybody else? Commissioner Habusta.
I'm sorry, just one follow-up question. In regards to section 22-94, when we talk about the culverts that aren't conforming to the requirements of the code, is there a certain time frame that those individuals will be allowed to have to bring those to satisfactory performance?
It's more so once they fail. I think is kind of the intent, correct, Dave? Or Kelly too, yeah. So they're grandfathered, quote unquote grandfathered, as much as I don't like to use that term, they're grandfathered in until there's a failure. But again, there's still some regular maintenance that could be done. To determine that non-conforming installation is the cause for obstructed flow, which cannot be returned to satisfactory performance or regular maintenance, yeah. So as long as they're still functioning, then they're good, but as soon as they break or there needs to be a significant amount of repair, then these ordinances would kind of kick in.
Is there a time frame, though? I guess what I'm, and I apologize for not wording this correctly. Is there a time frame for that repair that has to be done? In other words, when we went through the Knox boxes, there was a certain time allotment given to building owners to get their building up to code. Is there a certain time frame that homeowners would be allotted to bring their culvert up to par or to repair the culvert?
Okay, so I guess, so I make sure I understand what you're saying. So are you asking what's the time frame for any failure of the culvert? Or are you asking what's the time frame for grandfathered ones?
I guess if one fails, and whether it's grandfathered, whether it's
Okay.
What time frame would they have to repair that? Is it, a 30-day thing, 60-day thing, 3-year thing, that type of question?
So there's language in there, 22-91. It gives them 90 days, but as what we have done with other code enforcement issues, as long as they are actively working on it, they can show us that they've got a contractor lined up, they're buying materials to do the work themselves, whatever the case may be, then we won't necessarily cite them or issue them any fines or fees or anything like that. But it, the code as adopted gives them 90 days. And if they don't respond to us, they kind of push us off, then we can start to cite them or do the work and probably special assess it ourselves as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Bauer.
Quick question, just in regard to the 90 days, because we get a lot of rain and such in November. What happens if something fails in November? You don't expect them to get it fixed in December or January.
No. And that's why, there's some unofficial grace with these things to where if in that scenario, just kind of how we've handled other code enforcement issues or other issues that have kind of came up. Let's just say something happened in November, there was a failure, we noticed it, we sent them the notice, they came back and said, look, it's November, I can't do this work, we've got to dig, we've got to pour concrete, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. As long as they have us, as long as they submit to us a plan and kind of a timeline, and they're following through on that timeline, then we're good. So for example, if it happened in November, it was noticed in November, And they came to us and was like, look, I'm gonna have a contractor by January, then they'll do the work in the springtime, and as long as they can show us that they have a contractor kind of, I don't know the term, on contract or on retainer, whatever the case may be, then they'll be fine. We won't go heavy with the citations. Our ultimate goal with any of these ordinances, whether it be property maintenance code, this particular one or anything else, is compliance. We wanna see that outcome that the ordinance is trying to get to, and we wanna see the movement going towards that.
Okay?
Any other questions? Commissioner Marvel, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion to approve the included ordinance to create Chapter 2, Article 5, Stormwater Management of the Sault Ste. Marie Code.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. So now we'll move down into item G, which is business items. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is the readoption of the federal awards policies and procedures. This document has been brought to the commission for updates over a number of years. It's essentially a mandatory policy that we have to have in place for any kind of federal grants that we apply for, administer. As the regulations or the policies change, either internally or externally, the document needs to be updated accordingly. So the attached updates with the entire document is in your agenda item. Anything highlighted yellow is either a recommendation of language, or if there's a strike through, it's taken away the language. Happy to answer any questions that you may have on that, but ultimately we look for approval of the uniform guides policy as presented.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions or comments on the 56 pages of policy? Seeing none, Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, Your Honor. Motion to adopt the amended uniform guidance policies, federal award policies, and procedures.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Under G, business items, number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase a Boss snow plow for the wastewater treatment plant. Kind of long story short, the plow that we currently have is no longer that functional. It's constantly having to be repaired and doesn't necessarily facilitate the snow removal that we typically have to do at the wastewater treatment plant. This purchase was bid out. We received 3 bids, 2 actual bids, and 1 sorry, thanks, but no thanks, kind of returned to us. The recommendation is to move with Ina Store Inc. out of Bridgeport with their bid of about $10,000. There is another bid in here that's within the county. It's about $12,000. It doesn't quite meet the threshold of the local bid. So we would look to approve the purchase of the Boss plow from Ina Store in the amount of $10,406, and then a motion to amend the budget in the wastewater treatment plant capital equipment with an increase of $10,005 to come from sewer capital reserves.
Thank you, City Manager. Anybody have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Bauer.
Quick question, and you may or may not know this off the top, but I was just wondering that 2021 Ram with the snowplow, what we ended up spending on that to begin with for only 2 years of usage, and what's going to become of it now that we're getting a new snowplow.
I don't know of that, but I'm gonna have Director Masterson come up to kind of answer your question.
Hi, everyone. We purchased that truck in 2022, and it was used from O'Connor's, and the plow was a used plow on it, so. I think it was right around $40,000 to $42,000 we paid for the truck with the plow.
And then what's gonna become of,
I would have to more than likely put it on Gov Deal and let it go for auction, correct? Yeah,
all right, thanks.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I had one thought I had asked City Manager earlier with the because the staff followed our purchasing guidelines 100%, and I appreciate that. But there's only $2,400 difference between the local plow and the one that's 250 or 350 miles away. And it requires us to have one of our staff members drive the truck down there, wait for it, and then drive back. So you're talking about a 14-hour day or something like that, and all the mileage and everything else. I would think if you take the calculation into effect, that would be pretty close. And I have a lot of respect for the fourth quote, which was from Truck and Trailer Specialties, which I know we buy things from. And they said, thanks for the opportunity to bid, but we are not going to bid because you have a boss distributor close to you. So I didn't know if there was any discussion. I know we would be in violation of our policy, but that this might actually be less expensive to buy local. And if you have any warranty issues, I think you're going to have to drive it down there, won't you?
More than likely, yes.
So in that case, it might even be cheaper to do it here. So Commissioner Bosbus Rath.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just kind of thinking the same thing with it being in Rudyard. I mean, if something were to happen, you're a lot closer than having to travel all the way downstate for it. So I'm in support of what you're kind of saying with, we followed the bid process, which is great, but there wasn't a huge difference when you take on the cost of the miles to get it, miles coming back, the time. And then if something happens, that's more time, So I would be in support of the more local dealer.
Is that a motion?
I will make the motion.
Okay.
So I would just to clarify the motion, if you could make the motion to award the bid to
Second.
Gaylor Thompson, an amount not to exceed, let's call it 12. Let's just round it up to an even 13,000.
So there's a motion on the table to buy the plow from Gaylor Thompson Sales for not to exceed $13,000. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments for Commissioner Bauer?
Yeah, are we allowed to do that with a bid if we can't prove? I mean, shouldn't we put the numbers and like the man hours and everything that's gonna take to go to Bridgeport, what that's gonna cost, and actually put those numbers on paper? Because isn't that why we have the percentage that we deal with as far as local bidding versus non-local bidding? I mean, I remember when we first implemented that policy, the reason that we came up with those numbers was that it was not legal for us to not go with a qualified bid that was lower.
So I don't know the background of that specific thing. There are certain instances where it's not legal to go with not a qualified bidder or not the lowest bidder.
Depending on the financing.
What's that?
Depending on the financing that we're
Correct, yes.
using. If
It
it's
really
federal
ties
financing.
back to federal financing or a federal grant or something of that nature. The commission as a body, as a governing body, it's your policy. You have the right to deviate from the policy. There's nothing within this item that we're tied to any federal grants or state grants or any financing outside of just the user rates. So I'm not concerned with that. I mean, there's a reason why we bring the bid tabs to the commission, not only just to show you the whole thing that, or all the different bids that may have came in, but, if there is something that comes up, you can choose for another one as well. So, as the commission, you have the authority to deviate from policies. I would say, I'm not trying to underplay policies, but policies are put in place to guide staff and I to be able to come up with predictable and consistent recommendations to the commission for consideration. And again, that's not taking into consideration any bigger projects with federal grants or anything like that. So you can deviate from the policy if the commission so chooses to. If the commission would like to hold off on this, we could certainly bring back any kind of other information that's requested. I guess I would just make sure these bids are, they're usually good for 30 days or so.
It was
Brian, do
30
we have
days
any?
on that one.
Huh?
It was 30 days, I think.
Yeah, it was
on that
30
one.
days. Both of them are probably good
Yeah.
for 30 days, right? Yeah, so I mean, if the commission wanted to do, or wanted further information, we could put this item back on the, what's after February, March, during the March 3rd meeting, the first commission meeting in March, with any requested information. But it's the commission's,
Well, I would also presume, though, that the Gaylor Thompson vehicle, we could get quicker. And I mean, we got snow on the ground as it is, so.
Brian, do they both have them on hand? Would there be a significant difference between the two?
I can't answer if they both have them on hand, but more than likely Gaylord would be a quicker turnaround. Just because they'll get it, they'd call me, I wouldn't have to set anything up really to send someone down. I would just have to drop the truck off in Rudyard. They would do the work in the day, during the day, and then I would just go pick it up, so.
Because I think that also factors into the equation of which is the better deal, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wooston?
I just had a procedural question. Is there anything we have to waive? Like I know we have to waive competitive bidding process. Is there any purchasing process or anything like that that we have to waive in order to accept the?
No, to get to
Okay.
this recommendation, we followed the policies.
Okay, thank
So
you.
there is no policy, the policy does not say the commission thou shalt take the lowest bid every single time. If that was the case, then yes, you'd have to do a waiver, but in terms of getting to this recommendation, which is what the policy helps us get to, the commission then can choose.
Thank you. I have a lot of those thou shalts in my day job too.
Commissioner Rubenstein?
Um,
Sorry.
I agree with Commissioner Bauer that it's probably worth, if it's gonna still be within those 30 days, just to see what the mileage and man hours and stuff plays out to be.
I mean,
If it's,
Brian, why don't you come back up really quick? And Brian can correct me if I'm wrong. And just to be upfront, we don't have the specific numbers. But after the conversation with the mayor, Director Masters and I kind of talked about it, and it's not a whole lot. I mean, there would probably be a couple hours of overtime on each end of the travel, all the way downstate. You're looking at some mileage, or mostly gas for it.
Right, so I figured a tank of gas there, a tank of gas back, and I estimated right around $500 for the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge dollar amount. Because the only thing that would be extra on that trip would be the gas for the truck going up and down, and then the overtime for the person, whether they're here or not during the regular scheduled shift, that cost is gonna be the same anyway. So the only extra costs are really maybe 2 or 3 hours overtime on the front end, maybe 2 or 3 hours overtime on the front end, depending on how long it takes to get the plow installed.
Right.
So
I ran it the other way with the 70 cent per mile IRS rate.
Yeah,
It
and
was
it's-
much closer, so I mean, that's the way I looked at it. And then if you look at the wages of a person for 14, 15 hours, but certainly it's the will of the commission, and I don't recommend this often. I don't think I've ever recommended it, but this is a small amount. What it does do sometimes, or it could do, is discourage people from bidding on on some of our proposals, but this is a very small one. We've never had a bid that I know of from Ina Store Inc., and I'm not even sure where they came from, and we do have a certified dealer here in Rudyard, and those plows are actually made in the UP. So I just thought it was probably made sense to keep it local. It's a small amount, but it's at the will of the commission. Certainly understand your concerns, sure.
Thanks, Mayor. Do you know, so say we had to get work done on it, so we had to drive it back down, would the company then pay for the mileage and the gas to get it down there?
That, I can't answer that, I don't know.
Okay,
Not usually.
okay. All right, thank you.
So we do have a motion and support on the floor. Are there any other questions or comments? We could do a roll call vote on the motion and support, please.
So the motion is to award the plow to Gaylor Thompson Sales out of Red Yard
Yes,
for an amount not to exceed $13,000.
yes,
Mayor Gary,
yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes,
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes,
Commissioner Habusta,
Yes.
Commissioner Marble,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein,
yes.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yes.
Okay, motion to pass,
Then we gotta do the motion for the budget amendment. So we gotta do the second motion in your agenda item, just replace the 10-5 with the 13.
gotcha.
Motion to amend the budget in WWTP capital equipment with an increase of 13,000 to come from sewer capital reserves.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Both motions passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Under G, business items, number 3, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to make some repairs to engine 52 within the fire department. Engine 52 has seen some better days here, but it's in need of some significant repairs. Unfortunately, it's nothing that I think we were trying to plan for, but it just time-wise kind of got the better of us. So engine 52 is a 2009 fire pumper. Engine's about half of its life, which is about 5,000 hours. I don't really know a whole lot else about it, so I'm gonna call up Fire Chief Miller. He'll kind of give you the rundown on it. At the end of this item, we're looking for 2 motions. Motion to waive the bidding process for repairs for engine 52 to be performed by R&R Fire Truck, and a motion to approve budget amendment for fire capital equipment in the amount of $44,000. Take it away, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Hate to bring this type of stuff to you, but this is something that's been ongoing for a little while, and now we're to the point where it's out of service, and we do not have a fire pumper. The motor is a Cummins motor that needs to be rebuilt. It's gonna be an end-frame rebuild, and it's at half of its life. Now, the pumper's a 16-year-old pumper, and even according to NFPA, we have 4 years till we should be getting rid of it. And this is our newer pumper of the 2. So we wanna make sure we fix it right, so we can keep it in service and try to use our money wisely. And at the same time, we did not fare well on our DOT inspection. So we have frame rot on the front suspension hangers, and the tank cradle, what actually holds the 1,500 gallons of water, is rotting away too. We had the same problem on our previous pumper. We took care of it through our budget process, our operational budget process last year. But this one was planned for this year, but if we can get all the work done now, it would actually, that portion of it would save us a little bit of money, which doesn't offset the sting of the in-frame rebuild of the pumper. So right now, it's, hate to use a term, but it's a paperweight. It's sitting in our station. It cannot run, it cannot start, or we should not start it, fearing more damage to it. So if this is approved, this would be towed to the vendor to get fixed. And barring any other unexpected problems with it, we should be all set with what the quote was that was attached in your budget agreement. Or budget amendment along with all the rest of the paperwork on it. The bad part about it is our fire truck, we take really good care of them, and they look nice and shiny on the outside, but we don't see sometimes what's going on the inside. And the DOT inspection proved that this year, and now this check engine and stop engine light has done the rest of it for us.
And Chief, could you talk about a little bit of the history we have with R&R Fire Truck repairs?
Absolutely. R&R Fire Truck, before I came here, they were the ones that did all the work on our pumpers. And we have a mechanic that we know very well, who knows our equipment very well, and we trust with his opinion and his, in the experience of work he's done on these vehicles. R&R has done warranty work for Pierce Fire Trucks, but they also do a whole bunch of other equipment as well. They're located in Belleville, Michigan. They have a huge facility. They actually have the parts in stock because they know that this motor, this model of motor, needs this type of work, usually around 5,000 hours. So that's a good thing that they have the knowledge and experience of doing these in-frame rebuilds, and that we can use their experience and getting it done maybe a little quicker. We have been using the DPW mechanics for a lot of our smaller maintenance items, and they do a great job, but this is a significant job that really, they couldn't fit our truck in their bays and work on it for the amount of time that it's gonna take to get this done. They're estimating about a month to do all the work that we have listed in the quote, which is a pretty quick turnaround. And we don't want to be left without a pumper for a significant amount of time.
So right now, we don't have any pumpers in the firehouse. We're down
We have,
our fire pumper.
we have engine 57, which is a 1998 pumper. That one, I haven't told you yet, has some issues with it, but we're working on. We're hoping to keep it going. But again, our mechanic from R&R already got a hold of some parts to get that fixed, and it'll fall within our operating budget. Then engine 52 is our other pumper, and then the tower is an aerial device. So those all play into insurance ratings and everything else. You've heard the ISO ratings. So being down one is significant.
Hey,
Thanks.
Commissioner
you can
Bauer,
just-
go ahead.
just stay up there until we're done.
Commissioner Bauer and I were just reminiscing that we remember when we got delivery of that truck and did a ceremonial push into the station, so I guess we're not that shiny and new on the outside anymore either.
Now you can do a
Spray-
ceremony push outside.
Push out onto the record, yeah. It's kind of sad, just doesn't seem like that long ago.
Well, the engine looks better on the outside than I do.
So any questions for Chief Miller on the request? Sad to do, but what would a replacement truck be, $1 million plus?
Probably, yeah, at least, but that's a whole different story with the
Yeah.
way the manufacturing is right now. We wouldn't see one for at least 3 to 4 years if we ordered one today.
Right.
That makes it tough.
Okay, seeing no questions, who would like to make the motion on these? Commissioner Habusta?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion to waive the bidding process for repairs to engine 52 to be performed by R&R Fire Truck Repair of Belleville, Michigan.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Habusta.
Motion to approve a budget amendment for fire capital equipment in the amount of $44,000.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion, any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. G, business item, business items number 4, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to purchase a flight simulator from the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association in the amount of $20,000, as well as a motion to approve a budget amendment of $30,000 for said flight simulator to be coming from TIFA 3. I don't know a whole lot about this particular item, because I was out last week, so I'm gonna call up Director, what does it call you, Nikki? Director Radke, and she can kind of give you the lowdown on this one.
Good evening, Nikki.
Good evening. So we had the opportunity come about to purchase this used flight simulator. AOPA, who is the company who has it for sale, has it listed for $20,000. It's a once-in-a-lifetime deal, essentially. A new one is anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000. And the idea behind this that we have the TIFA 3 board and I had worked with is to create some additional income for Sanderson Field Airport to Fund 101. So any use from the flight simulator would go to the general fund to support some income from Sanderson Field.
Thanks, Nikki. And I see Craig Krauth from the EDC and from TIFA 3 is in the audience, and then also Dean Paul. So anybody have any questions in regard to the simulator, or what it is, what it does? Commissioner Abusta.
Just a comment, as the liaison to the airport board, I truly think that this will provide us a great opportunity to not only use it for training and perhaps different educational opportunities, but it is an opportunity to generate income, and I think it's well worth the money, and it truly is a steal of a deal for the simulator.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Dean, if you're open to it, I actually might think it might be worth hearing from you what you said to all of us at the EDC meeting in terms of flight training and hours, and I think it would be beneficial for everyone to hear.
Sure, I can do that. Thank you very much for having me up here.
Sure, welcome.
The simulator The FAA will issue a letter of authorization to come with this simulator because it is a full motion simulator. So it's not a desktop simulator. And being a full motion simulator, the FAA will allow us to do training in the simulator and actually count it towards some of their training. So for example, an individual wants to start their training towards their private pilot's license. Out of the minimum requirements of 40 hours, the FAA will allow you to have 2.5 hours. If you're going with your commercial, your instrument, they're allowing 20 hours and on up as they go for the training. The other advantage of that is we get a lot of people, being the flight instructor up here, in the springtime we'll get a lot of people that haven't flown in the wintertime will need a flight review or their IPC, an instrument proficiency check. Because this is an authorized motion simulator from the FAA grants that we could do these IPCs in this simulator. Normally you'd have to go out and do it in the real airplane. But this would save us some time and save us some money and make the airport some money as well, as long as we can, get the simulator. So there's a lot of advantages of it. We have groups, we have the Experimental Aircraft Association that we're working with, the students, on getting the younger people in here. So if somebody wants to come out, if they didn't want to go up in the actual airplane to start off with, we can get them in the simulator and they can actually feel what it's like to be moving around. The simulator does have the capabilities of staying stationary. So if you didn't want to move, you don't have to have it move, but it's a full screen. And then if you wanted to see some more pictures of it, if you haven't seen it, after the meeting, I'd be more than happy to pull it up on a computer and show you some videos of it. But it's a very advantageous. There is not a full motion simulator within a couple hundred miles that I know of around here. So we could really market it for our airport, and then if it goes through tonight, then I'll certainly talk to our partners across the border here. They got a big flight program over there, and what they have I don't know, but we could work in partnership with them and offer training.
Any questions for Mr. Paul? Thank you very much.
And the price is, it's a steal. At AOPA, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, by the way, that's the largest organization in the world that represents aircraft owners and pilots. And so I'm doing some work for them. And when I was at headquarters, we have 2 of them. And they were going to disassemble one of them, and they were going to sell it. And I just happened to be talking to them, probably at the right spot, at the right time. And they said, yeah, these are going to go for $80,000 to $90,000. But since I'm a staff member of AOPA, and I live here in the Sioux, I put the proposal to them, and we took it to the board of AOPA, and they said, we'll let it go for 20. So.
Thanks again. Anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Rubenstein, would you like to make a motion? 2 motions.
Motion to waive the bidding process for a used flight simulator from Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association for $20,000.
Support.
We have motion and support. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Motion number 2, Commissioner Rubenstein.
Motion to approve a budget amendment of $30,000 to purchase a flight simulator from TIFA 3.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you. Under G, business items, number 5, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve an agreement with Cloverland and the city to facilitate some upgrades by LSSU for some signal and pedestrian improvements, as well as a motion to amend the budget in the amount of $374,000 for a project to be funded solely by the Federal Highway Administration grant. This was a project that we brought forward to the commission a few months ago. We have some funding that we received from the Federal Highway Administration to do some pedestrian signalizing improvements up in that area. It's a project that's actually been in the work for a number of years, well before Dave and I got up here. What's that? number, yeah, emphasis on that. So we got the grant funding here. We have two motions with this one. The second motion is to establish the budget. When we brought the item to the commission in the past, I don't believe we made the budget request, so the second motion is to request the budget. The first one is to approve the agreement with Cloverland. I'm really struggling. And then if you have any other questions, I'll call Dave up here to help you out.
Thank you, city manager. Does anybody have any questions for the city manager or city engineer? Commissioner Talentino.
So this would be for like the crosswalk flashers, et cetera?
Come on up, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
So we're gonna put big string poles in and put new signalization, so that then we'll have the pedestrian poles
Okay.
with the push buttons.
That's what I wanted to comment on. The current poles seem to be offset
Yep,
3 to 5 feet, et cetera, whatever it may be, and people aren't using them
yeah.
because they don't want to walk and push the button. So,
These will all be lined up.
perfect, Dave.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Bauer.
So moved, we approve the agreement with Cloverland to facilitate the signal and pedestrian improvements at the intersection of LSSU and allow the city manager to sign.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Bauer.
I further move to amend the budget with an additional $374,000 for the project to come solely from a Federal Highway Administration grant.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously. So moving along, city manager announcements and updates. City manager Chapman.
All right, you're not getting out of here that early. So up first is Joe Nolan from Community Action, just with some follow-up from the data ride item from the last commission meeting. Joel's just got some updates and some numbers that he wished he could have presented at the last item, but he was out sick, so.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Joe.
Sorry. You're glad I wasn't here. I had COVID, so I missed out 2 weeks ago. I apologize. I'm definitely a lot better now, but I just wanted to. You proved everything I needed, which I appreciate, but I still wanted to come report just some overall data to you, some ridership information, and then I also attached an article we had last year when we celebrated the 50 years of dial rides. So we ran a special that day and did like 50-cent rider that day. That week did about 50-cent rider fares. So it was pretty cool, pretty special. And then, Brian, if you get a plaque that says 50 years, will you let me know? MDOT said they'd send it, but I haven't seen it yet, so.
Oh, is that what it's for?
Yeah. So that make a nice coffee holder right now in your office. Yeah. So just the data here, you'll see. I just kind of put together what we report to MDOT from last fiscal year. Of the 22,000 trips we provide, 70% of that either is someone who's elderly or disabled. So it's a very important service to this community that you guys are working with us, subcontracting us to run your program for you for 51 years now. So 76% are on demand, door to door, which I think shows just how important it is to have transportation that is on demand, that is scheduled and dialed for medical trips, grocery shopping. And then those new routes we did right when COVID happened and we took the bridge bus down and we did the routes in town, those are doing pretty well. Those run 25% of your trips now, and those run on a continuous loop around the city on the hour, up and down the business spur on the hour as well. They connect down at Osborne Commons and connect up at our bus depot on the half hour. So it's a very orchestrated couple routes that connect. Definitely took a lot of trial and error, a lot of skunks on Saturdays trying to figure out where people need to be picked up at on these routes, but we feel we have a pretty good grasp on it now, about 5 years into it. Yeah, so overall, that's just the data there I wanted to show you. We still operate the 5 vehicles, 3 are on demand, 2 are those routes, and then 1 vehicle on Saturdays as of right now. I'll keep this short since you approved everything I needed already 2 weeks ago. I appreciate that. The article, though, was the 50 years. We hit that back in August. We did a press release for it. Sioux Leader picked it up, and then we did the special, as I mentioned earlier, 50-cent rider fares for the week. Went really well. And yeah, it was great to show off our 50-year anniversary. The last thing I wanted to update you on the program is that we did put in for a bunch of capital requests through Michigan Department of Transportation last year. and like over $1 million worth on that building up there. And they said, well, hold on. They just awarded us an engineer study and said, start with that. So we are now, I'd say about halfway through that right now. We were awarded. We solicited bids. I had some help from the city as well. Actually, Mr. Masterson back there helped grade some of the bids for us. And it was awarded to OHM. They are currently doing about a $40,000 feasibility study on that bus property at 4001 I-75 Business Spur, if you guys know where the bus garage is, bus depot. And we've done our questionnaires, and they're attending February 27th at 11 a.m., and their engineers will be coming in, doing a walkthrough and all kinds of stuff way above my head, electrical, everything. You know, just pretty much testing out getting an opinion together and a report on if that building needs to be, you know, taken down, moved, put money into it. Now they're going to give us an overall opinion on a direction to take with it. But most importantly, it'll satisfy what Michigan Department of Transportation has been wanting is a professional opinion to give them some guidance on it as well. So once we get that back, that'll kind of be our leverage for us to continue applying on the city's behalf for improvements to that building. So that's where we're at with that. I welcome anybody to attend if they'd like. Certainly don't have to. I'm sure we have better things to do. But February 27th at 11 a.m., they will be up there. And yeah, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joe. Happy 50-year, 6-month anniversary.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Certainly is a great program. Anybody have any questions for Joe? Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Joe.
it. Thanks.
And then just one last update. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion kind of online and everywhere else regarding snow plowing. This winter has been pretty challenging in the amount of snowfall that we've received. I think we're close to getting 200 inches so far, somewhere around there. We recognize that some of the streets are getting a little snug. The banks are getting high up here, but we are out and about doing what we can as often as we can in between plowing the roads when storm events come in, and then when there's a window going out, removing banks, cleaning the parking lots, plowing the sidewalks, whatever the case may be. Since the snow started falling, went around Thanksgiving, with a little bit of stop in December, the crew, for the most part, especially in this calendar year, they've been working around the clock. They've been coming in on the weekends, trying to clear out banks. They've been working some overtime throughout the week, trying to keep the roads open and do the work we need to do. So we're out there, we're doing the best we can. Our full area of responsibility for snow plowing is we have 214 lane miles, in addition to 22 miles of sidewalks. We run 2 shifts. We've got 4 employees in the night shift, 7 employees in the day shift, and then 3 that kind of do filling in the gaps, running the sidewalk cleaner, or doing some other tasks there. So not a big crew. We don't have a lot of equipment. We've got 2 blower units. One of them is broken right now. We got 5 tandems. One is broken there that we use to move the snow around. Our plows themselves have had a lot of repair and downtime this year due to the cold, the amount we've been using them, beating them, all that stuff. So, you know, it's from my perspective, we've been doing a good job. We've been keeping the roads open. There's a lot of snow in and out throughout the city. We will get to the areas. When we get to the areas, we do have our priorities in which we maintain the streets. A lot of this information is actually on the city's website under the streets department. Bonnie, if you want to throw it up on the screen really quick. I know I told you I was going to do this, but sorry. On the city's website, we kind of have the process, what we're doing, our night shifts, what's a priority, priority 1, priority 2, what our day shift priorities are. All this information is kind of on there. So in addition to, like I said, plowing, we've got a number of parking lots we're responsible for. We've got some sidewalks that we maintain, the banks to pull back. We focus on the downtown area to try to keep that up the best we can. There's a lot of work to be done for 15 employees with a handful of pieces of equipment. So we're doing the best we can. We appreciate people calling in and pointing out some of the concerns, the issues throughout the city. we'll get to them when we can get to them. If you have concerns, feel free to call staff, and we'll address them as quickly as we can, but, yeah. Any questions about snow plowing?
No, we appreciate that update, and I know that we have all seen and been witness to people that have not been happy, but I can tell you as a 50-some-year resident of City of Sault Ste. Marie, this year has been back to a normal winter like we used to have when we were kids, and I think the staff have done a fantastic job. And I think it's very well defined, as you said on the website. There's been a lot of social media posts explaining the process. And I know a lot of the people in DPW have not had one day off since before Thanksgiving, and they've worked their butts off, and we appreciate every minute of it. I've seen them knocking down banks for 2-3 months now, and I think those statistics are crazy. We have 212 lane miles within the city of Sault Ste. Marie and 22 miles of sidewalks. It's amazing. So great job to the crew. Know that we appreciate what you're doing. We got your backs. We know that you're doing the very best you can with the equipment that you have. And we appreciate it very much. And if anybody has any issues, needs something plowed, I can't tell you how many times I've contacted city manager or had them contact the city, and it was taken care of just about immediately. So please just notify the city if you have an issue, and it will be handled. So thank you very much, and thanks for the update, city manager. I don't know if anybody else has any comments, questions? Nope.
And that's all I have.
All right. So, we'll move on into item I, which is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? Sure. If you'd please come up and introduce yourself, give a little historical background, and
Hello, everybody.
what was the funniest thing you've ever done? You know,
Yeah.
things like
Craig Krauth. I'm got a lot of hats, but I'm here as a citizen today. I'm glad you guys touched on snow, because that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. A couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention that I'm concerned about. First and foremost, and correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers, but this is from my research. This past summer, up on Ryan Street and around Lincoln School, there was an $840,000 MDOT project dubbed Safe Routes to School program that was completed, where sidewalk was installed and updated in some areas, but mostly new sidewalk was put in up by Washington School, and some down by Lincoln. Basically, the sidewalk, I'm specifically speaking to up by Washington School. I bring both my kids to both schools every day. So I have some experience in kind of seeing what happens around the schools. And the Safe Routes to School up by Washington, all the new sidewalk on the east side of Ryan hasn't been removed since basically the beginning of November. So it's not like a situation where like, hey, we got a bunch of snow and we just haven't made it there yet. It's legitimately buried under 5 feet of snow. And that's a little concerning that we did an entire project that disturbed that entire stretch of residential property to put in this new sidewalk, and it's just being left unused for its intended purpose, right? Because it's supposed to be a safe route to school. But kids and parents continue to walk that stretch in the middle of the road sometimes, you know? So I think it's concerning that we took $840,000 in money from the state for this project, and we're not actually using it for its intended purpose. And that goes to a bigger question I have, which is, and listen, I don't ever want to give the impression to anybody that I'm not grateful for the DPW and their hard work. They've been working their butts off. That's not about this at all, okay? But correct me if I'm wrong, but we have an ordinance on the books that says we're supposed to take care of the sidewalks on our property, right? And since I've been in Sault Ste. Marie for just about 20 years now, that ordinance has not been enforced properly. I mean, you could claim that maybe there's some selective enforcement going on, but I think that would even be pretty generous. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if 2 property owners clear the sidewalk and the third one doesn't, that renders the entire sidewalk useless in most cases, because people can't walk it. And I understand, it's not the city's response, that ordinance is in place because the city can't possibly clear that much snow, especially this year. I think we can all appreciate that, right? So my concern is we've had this ordinance on the books that hasn't been properly enforced for years. And this isn't on the, like I said, this isn't on City Manager Chapman entirely. This goes way back, right? Multiple city managers. But we have situations all over town where there's unusable sidewalk because people aren't taking care of it. And I'm not talking about like the very, very residential parts. I mean, walk down Portage Avenue. You cannot walk the south side of Portage Avenue the entire length because there are literally sections where people are not clearing. And it could be because their business is closed or whatever, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Bauer, as a business owner on that stretch, you probably think it's quite unfair that you have to take care of your sidewalk, but on the opposite end of Portage, they're leaving snow dumped on that, and in some cases, they're dumping snow on it. So, listen, I'm not suggesting here, sitting here saying that we should sick the code enforcement officer on everybody and start writing tickets galore. That's not my intended purpose. But it's to bring to your attention that years and years of not enforcing this ordinance is a problem, and it keeps building upon it, and we could probably rectify some of these issues if we just enforce that. And so when I see that kind of enforcement, and then earlier today you guys approved the culvert ordinance, right, or wastewater ordinance, and it always makes me a little leery when I hear a new ordinance getting passed when we're not enforcing the ones we have on the books properly. So I always get concerned when I talk about, well, you know, it technically says this, but, you know, this is probably how we're going to enforce it. It just makes me a little concerned. So I wanted to bring those 2 things to your attention. First and foremost, we want to get the kids off the streets and walk into school on the sidewalks as they were intended. And then just to look a little bit closer at our ordinances to make sure that we are properly enforcing them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And you are correct, it is city ordinance that resident, no?
No. So,
Okay, go ahead.
okay.
Thank you.
So we have, just like the stormwater ordinance, we have an ordinance, but it's not the best ordinance. So the ordinance is 22-48, designation of sidewalks for snow removal, notice to property owners. The language is, the Director of Public Works is hereby authorized to designate from time to time those graded or paved sidewalks from which the snow and ice shall promptly be removed by owner or occupant of the adjacent premises who has the care of the same. Suitable notice shall be given the public, this is how bad it is. Suitable notice shall be given the public by signs and public announcements of the period so designated. There's a weak ordinance. And that's kind of gets into the same conversation we had the stormwater stuff. Do we have an ordinance? We have an ordinance. Is it a strong ordinance? Is it a well-written ordinance? Is it actually a requirement? No, just, it gives us, doesn't even give me, it gives the Director of Public Works some power from time to time to do it. It could be strengthened. It could be a lot better. And to kind of go to the point that Mr. Krauth brought up regarding the Safe versus School, if we had a better ordinance and it was enforced and it was something we did, then that first issue he brought up wouldn't be an issue because there would be other areas that are being cleaned up and removed by the property owners and all that. So, I mean, yeah, we do have an ordinance. The only one that we kind of have one that's stronger for, I believe, is for the commercial properties in the downtown area. But in terms of the rest of the area, around the residential area, there's really not that strong of an ordinance in place. Now, I have no issue at some point with further researching that. I know Chief Miller, coming from Sterling Heights, they had a stronger program. They had a program put in place to kind of assist snowbirds and or elderly with some of their sidewalk removals. I mean, there's ways of making it happen, but Yeah, I think I sent you guys an email, the commission an email just a few weeks ago on it. I think that's a weakness in in our quality of winter living within the community.
Commissioner Bauer and then Commissioner Marble.
What I was gonna say was, and in my time on and off the commission over the past 20 years, this does come up every time we have a winter like this, and not sometimes it's not even this bad, but people do bring it up, which is why when you were saying that we have an ordinance, I was thinking, wow, I'm gonna sound really ignorant when I say that I didn't know that we had an ordinance that we could enforce, because from time to time, this does come up, and we have had discussions about this over that period of time. And the reason that it usually does not come to a point where anything is done about it is the general consensus is that we have so many older citizens in this community who are property owners. If you make them shovel and you say, well, just make sure that they keep their property shoveled, maybe they'll pay somebody else to shovel it. They'll pay a contractor, they'll pay a kid, whatever. And I mean, come on, that a lot of people are either they can't pay it or they're, penny pinchers or whatever, and they're gonna be out there shoveling on their own. And it's gonna take like one person to have a heart attack out there because we made them shovel. And, that's when the crap is gonna hit the fan. So that was always the point of view that we came to. And I think this has come up like 3 times in the past 20 years. So if it came up again, this would be the 4th. So it comes up about every 5 years, right? But that is the general consensus, is that if we make all these seniors shovel their walk like that, then, we're setting ourselves up for some problems in that way. As for the south side of the street, I gotta be honest with you, I don't have much cause to walk on the south side of Portage Avenue because I'm always at work. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. And you're right, it is wrong, because I mean, we pay, and there's part of the, it's part of the Downtown Development Authority. We enter into agreements, to keep our sidewalks plowed and all that. And that's also not something that you can make a business take part in. And especially you have some businesses, they're closed for the winter or whatever, they don't have any income for the winter, and they opt not to do that. So I mean, I really don't, I know we have stronger codes to enforce in the downtown area in regards to that than we do in the residential areas. But I'm just saying, and I'm not saying whether I agree with it or not, but that's usually the way that it plays out and what the philosophy is behind that by the time we come to an agreement.
Thanks. Commissioner Marble.
I just have a quick question. Is there any possibility that we could reword that ordinance to make it a little bit more clear in the way of, like how it states, like how you explained it?
Yeah, so No, sorry. I would say if the commission would like to direct me to do some research and present some options, I'm gonna lean on Chief Miller, because they had something down in Sterling Heights that I kinda liked. But if the commission would like this option to be researched and kinda given some proposals, quote unquote, then either with everybody really head nodded on that one, or through majority vote,
I definitely would support that, yes.
then we could do that. So I mean, if the commission wants to give me that direction, they can do it with a motion and support, kind of right here and right now, and we can bring this stuff. I can't bring this up right now, but we will follow up with different ideas, different concepts, some different options. Be more than happy to do that.
So I make a motion to
rewrite the ordinance?
No, to direct the city manager to
Yeah.
research it and
Yes.
bring back information to the commission.
Make the motion to redirect the city manager to look into the ordinance.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. to have the,
Pretty
I think
quiet on that
supported,
one, yeah.
Moved and supported to have the city manager research this and bring it back. Any questions or comments? All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And I don't know if you're equipped to do that now, but could you explain a little bit about the sidewalk plowing and the Safe Routes to Schools routes and how they had been chosen and why the new sidewalks are not a part of that yet? Or do you want to bring that back at another?
I'll bring it back
Okay.
because I don't know the full
All right.
history of why the sidewalks are the way they are prior to me. So I would have to do some research on that one. I don't have an answer for that.
Perfect. All right. Anybody else in the public that would like to make any comments at this time? We'll move on to item J, which is matters presented by the city commission. Commissioners, anybody have any comments, questions? Be quiet tonight. Commissioner Bauer.
Quick one, and
Sure.
that is, I'll be the first one to admit when I'm wrong. And I said coming in that this was gonna be a short meeting. And we're 7 minutes over.
Yeah.
So I was wrong.
Apology accepted.
You told me I was gonna jinx it, and I did. I'm sorry profoundly.
Would you like to make the motion to
Your
not make it any
Honor,
longer?
yes, Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.